Welcome to Recovery the Whole Enchilada, a podcast dedicated to exploring the many layers of healing and growth within the recovery community. I'm your host, Peg McDermott, along with my lovely co-host,
Heather Hagaman.
Yes, hello, Heather. You're so lovely.
Hello.
I love you. Today's conversation is about finding joy this season, this holiday season. And we were just talking about this before we started recording. And when Heather first shared it, I'm like, well, do I have enough to talk about when it comes to joy? And when you really unpack it, we do. It's such a integral part of a fulfilling life with color and depth and love, really. I think it's a fantastic topic for the holiday season, right, Heather?
Absolutely. And when I think about, for those of you that are new in recovery, my idea of joy was to get as drunk as I could and to accomplish, honestly, always trying to shut off my thinking. That's what it was. And that to me was fun. And so I remember early on being told, and I've shared this before, Heather, you have to redefine your idea of fun. So given that has been my journey, how do I not just only have fun, but how do I have joy? Real, lasting, fulfilling joy in my life. And I believe that what I've done and the journey has evolved, that I have replaced that desire for the chemical pleasure, and I've replaced it with genuine connection and service and personal growth and really deep, serene happiness, deep, authentic happiness that's not tied to external circumstances. I believe joy is not it is an inherent internal feeling. It's not fleeting. It's not alcohol induced. It's a deeper happiness that just comes from a deeper, stable, and I'll say the word spiritual contentment. I was going to tell you a story, and I'm surprised I didn't tell you the story. One of the things that just happened recently to me is that oftentimes when the holidays come, and this may be I think a lot of us go through this, all of us humans go through this. If we've lost somebody, we think about them in the holidays, and we may get that sense of grief and sadness. And I was finding myself missing my father really deeply. And I hadn't said it out loud because he's been gone for 10 years. It's just that kind of long-term aching. You know what I'm talking about? Just that kind of achiness and just feeling, I wish he could be here and I miss him. And I came home and it was dark out, and I went out to the mailbox, and I came inside and I put the mail on the table, and a handwritten stamped card came out of the group there. And it was from somebody, and I didn't recognize the name. And so I opened up the card, and the card was so beautiful because it basically said, talk about uncanny and almost feeling like a supernatural experience here. But the card basically said something to the effect like, I know this might be hard times, and you have memories during these times of your dad, your father. Just know that you don't have to have those memories alone, and just know that he lives on in your heart. It was actually a Hallmark card that said that. Okay. And I still did not know who the person was that wrote it, and they wrote their name. And so then I noticed inside there was a folded up typed letter, and it was a letter, and the person started off saying, you may not remember me, but I went to high school with you. And I want to tell you that I had a memory come back of your dad, and I never met your father, but to me, he was one of the greatest people that he's ever come across in life. Okay. And I'm reading the letter, and he's talking about how when we were stationed out in Hawaii, he had, as a young man, he was on military land, but he had gotten permission from the military police to be on the land. He was doing kind of like I don't want to say Tai Chi, but he was doing some kind of martial arts and this was in Waikiki, and there's not a lot of land there, but he had nice space there because the military owned some space there, and they let him be there. Well, this one particular day he was there, he did not see the same guards that had let him on, and all of a sudden he was surrounded by 6 military police, and they had guns on him and threw him to the ground, and they arrested him and put him in jail. And so he's typing this all out to me. Okay, he's typing this whole story. It's all on this sheet of paper that he sent me. And then he says he remembered that he'd run across a friend that knew that I was living out there. My dad was the general of the base, and that Heather went to school with him, and they were very impressed by that. So he asked the guard to call my dad and say, I went to school with his daughter. I don't know why I'm here. Could he help me? And within about 3 hours, my dad, they pulled him out of the jail, and they handed him the phone, and he explained to my dad what he was doing. And my father said, yeah, they had something happen there. They thought it could have been him, but it definitely was not him. And my dad told the guard to let him go. So he just wanted to let me know that when he found out my dad had passed 10 years ago, that he read everything he could about my father and saw what a humanitarian he was. And he wanted to just send me this memory and hoped it brought a smile to my face. And it did not only bring a smile to my face, but it actually brought joy into my heart to have somebody out of the 40 years later, because this is in the 80s, send me a letter to tell me how magnificent and how much my dad had changed this man's life.
Wow.
And so that man took the time out to type that letter to me. And so here's an example of creating joy. Maybe you reach out to somebody that you haven't talked to in years, and you tell them, you know what? You mattered to me, or you helped me, or I will never forget what you said to me. And take that time to send something like that to somebody, a text, a letter, a card. I mean, we have no idea how that can really make somebody's day. And that made my year.
Wow.
Peg.
Yeah. I mean, you loved your dad so much, and I had met him, and he was a giant. I mean, in so many ways, he was a special man for sure. And he has a special daughter for sure. Yeah, that's a beautiful story. What are the chances of that person mailing all that or typing all that and then mailing it to you randomly? And last time you saw him was in the 80s.
I mean,
Wow.
Right. But again, it's these random moments that can bring us joy at this level. I mean, this felt supernatural. If there's a higher power, which I try to tend to believe, I feel like my higher power said, hey, I'm gonna, okay, get a little bit out here. Dad is gonna connect through this man and show me that you can be gone in physical form, but who you are and how you leave this place better than you found it, that's what's left behind. And that's what people remember. And just another thing, I was at a party where this woman opens her house to people in the 12-step community. Anybody could come to it. I think about that as a beautiful service work, which bringing people together for food and opening presents. It was a white elephant party. I'm putting out there that think outside the box and how we can have more joy in our life, and how can we intermingle what seems to be one of the greatest ways to cultivate joy is to be of service to others during this season of supposedly joy for many and not for some.
Yeah. I think it's a mixed bag. That's a beautiful story, though. Thank you for sharing that. You were saying it's like joy isn't so much about happiness. Happiness is almost like things have to sort of turn out a certain way. And joy is really more about letting that go and letting it just be, and nothing super planned and no shoulds and these expectations of the perfect holiday and how we should act and how our family should act and our partner should act. And then if they don't, does that mean we're not happy? Usually it does, because we have this picture. I have this picture in my head that it should have been a certain way. And now with my family not here, my parents passed away and my brother passed away. And I miss that. I miss them. And these holidays are a mix of joy and grief. And it's the different kind of grief, like an ache, what you mentioned earlier. And I know that wherever they are, it's wonderful. And I will see them again one day. And it's important for me, and I think they would say this, and I think your dad would probably say this to you as well, that it's important to stay in the present moment and to not seek perfection. It's not possible. And the ability to be present is one of the greatest joys in life. When someone is with you and they're present and you're having a great conversation, that brings up joy for me, because it's one of those moments with another human that is so special. It's like when you and I first met at that bougie cheese party we went to, and we just had such a wonderful conversation. And that was a good example of that. I've had a lot of conversations in my life, and that is one that I'll never forget, because it was just, we connected on this authentic human level. And for me, I felt such joy. It was really good to connect with another human in that way. It's not, enjoy, I have found, isn't something you can achieve or seek. It's more something you allow. It's something that's a part of us. And if we can allow it by letting go of expectations, or at least some of our expectations. I know it's probably not realistic to let go of all of them. Knowing that expectations have weight to them. They're heavy. And I've learned when I go to a gathering, if it's a holiday thing, to not have any expectations. And actually, I'm pretty pleasantly surprised most of the time. So being present, really toning down the expectations so that you can be present and enjoy the moment that won't repeat itself ever again. And we only have so much time here. And I believe joy for me has helped punctuate certain times in my life, like meeting you, that I won't forget. Even as a child, there were things I remember first watching, and I think I was 7, a Charlie Brown Christmas. I loved it so much. To me, watching that brought me joy, because it was like, it was fun, it was animated, it was Snoopy, and I have a beagle, so of course I love Snoopy. And I remember as a kid, it became so much easier for me to allow joy when I was a kid. Whether you're riding your bike or you're climbing a tree or you're having fun with friends, I think children are naturally joyful. And I've learned to push that aside or push it down, because it's not always well accepted. There are just some people that don't understand that emotion or can't connect with it or don't want to connect with it. And I have found that that's okay for them. But for me, I want to choose to stay open, even when it's uncomfortable. And I guess as I've gotten older, life is more about present, joyful moments. And when they're full of joy, I remember them. But I know when I was drinking, I thought it was joyful, but it was borrowed joy. It was borrowed happiness. It wasn't real, because what came with it, which doesn't usually come with authentic joy, is remorse, is guilt, is shame. That's what came after a night out. And although I thought it was joyful, it was anything but. And today I have the capacity to feel joy again like I did as a little kid, because I have removed, I have this disease, but I'm in recovery. And I've been able to recover that joyful part of myself. And do I have it all the time? No. But I'm much more aware of it when it happens, when I allow it to.
Totally hear you on that. And I think I think the joy that I first began to experience on this recovery journey was just, I felt like there was a release from a lifetime of frustration. And I, the frustration from me doing this to me. Okay. I mean, I think I always thought the world was doing it to me, but I was not allowing myself to experience joy because of the way I was living my life. And I was steeped into an addiction that really wants you dead and will settle for you being screwed up. I mean, that's one of the first things I heard in the beginning of my recovery. But I also think too that some of the things that I love about, I think I cultivate small little joys by just reclaiming things that I used to do, like simple activities, like hobbies. Just recently, I've been cooking. Now, it's been taking a long time for me to find joy in cooking because I had a mother that was not happy about being, she did everything she could not to cook. So she just loved when McDonald's came and Hardee's came and the microwave came and all that was like perfect. She could just slap it in and mess hall girl. She was a Marine member. I don't know if you have heard this before, but my mother was a Marine as well as my father. And but to learn how to cook and enjoy cooking and listening to music and cutting up vegetables and I just made a beautiful quinoa chicken, sweet potato meal just now. And I enjoyed doing that. I did it to music. I enjoyed it. And then also just finding other ways. Like I'm trying to do embroidery right now. It's really funny, but I want to do something with my hands. So I'm trying to embroider and I'm not doing a very good job at it. And it looks like a 10-year-old did it, but I am finding a little joy from that. So it's just like trying to rediscover these little small things that we can do to move us out of where we used to be, which was always focused on our struggles and our problems. Instead, we are like trying to find ways to live a more meaningful life, and we're focused more on progress and personal growth. And so I think joy I think we might give it's got to be this experience of a static, oh, I'm joyful. But I think that there can be lots of little baby joyful moments along the way in the sweetest ways.
Yeah. I like that sweetness around it. And for those that are early in their recovery journey, joy may feel like a little bit of a stretch right now. And I promise you that it does happen if we do the work, we show up, and we genuinely learn to love ourselves. We'll allow that joy to come forth. But, right now, and even those that have some time, we're feeling so many different things, and most of it isn't joy. And for the longest time, I didn't feel anything. I didn't know how to feel it, and I didn't know how to identify feeling. And if you had brought up joy when I first came around, I would have been like, what the F does that mean? I'm miserable right now. Like, I'm just hanging on one day at a time, and that's okay. Because there are people that will be there with you to say, just keep coming back. Don't pick up a drink, and know and trust. It does get better. And we get to the point where there's peace, there's serenity, there's joy. Those are the things that I believe we were built to experience while on this planet. I don't think we're supposed to walk through this life miserable and expectant and looking for happiness and expecting happiness. No, I think that allowing is what has helped me recognize it and embrace joy. Embrace it. Sometimes when we're learning to feel again, we need to learn how to heal in layers. And the joy layer is there. It may be further along, or you may be pleasantly surprised if you're open to it. Those moments of joy that life will present to you if you expect that joy is a part of your existence every day. And it is there. I can't even imagine how many things I missed when I was so caught up in being a victim and all the things that alcohol brought out in me. It was the selfishness and the self-centeredness. I had no capacity to look for it or even recognize it when it showed up in my life.
Yeah. It really is a state of consciousness, isn't it? It's a kind of
It is.
and in that consciousness, it's not just joy, but there's things that help to create that feeling of joy by this honesty that we live by, right? That
Mm-hmm.
we're truly what radically honest. You have to be rigorously honest,
Yes.
and we must be tolerant. Tolerance is another huge one. That's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an easy one, but when I can step back and yield and not push and tell you what I think you need to do and be tolerant of what you are doing and knowing that you will have your own consequences and I can just be here alongside of you and love you. We also want to really work on what helps me to keep a peace of mind. How do I spend my day really protecting my peace of mind? And what I'm really saying is, how do I protect my joy? Right. And there's this word joy of living and this phrase, and it really comes from this action kind of way of living, is to live from that place of being of service, to be helpful to others, and to also really know so much about myself now that I've really done the work and done the self-examination to find out that I have principles and values that really matter to me and that I practice that in my daily life. And so that is the part that I think joy really helps too, is that it helps you to really have this personal growth, but also to really recognize that you have to do this work in connection and in service with
Mm-hmm.
others. I don't think we just can be joy. I think joy, it is an internal way of being, but I think it gets fed in connection and in service.
Right.
It's not a situation. It's not a book. It's not this, it's that. It's a consciousness that evolves when you live in a state of grace and
Mm-hmm.
peace and putting yourself into just not that I, self, and me ism, but into that state of I help sponsor and I help people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to be love. And I say that often, that I feel like I am driven to be love, to be love, to
I
be the
love
presence
that.
of love.
And
Oh, I try to
you
be.
are.
Thank you.
And it's not trying, you're doing it. And I remember while you were talking, what came up was this memory bubble of how I used to talk to myself when I was in the midst of my disease and even well into sobriety, because I was still working on the process of getting healthier. And I remember how I used to speak to myself. It was so harsh and negative. And I couldn't allow joy in my life because I didn't like myself. And for me, they were opposites. I don't like myself. I don't deserve to be joyful. So I'm not even going to look for it. I'm not going to expect it because I'm not worth it. And that is how I used to think. And today I have learned to pay attention to how I talk to myself, because that can pinch off so much of what life is offering us today. Joy and development and learning and meeting new people and being open to that. Having a more positive, loving narrative to myself, and that's not always the case, but it is more so than it used to be. I've found that because I changed that and I asked my higher power to help me change it because I couldn't do it on my own, I realized that I was able to feel that depth of joy and happiness at times too. And then I also would suppress my emotions. I didn't want to feel anything. I was afraid to feel. I didn't even know what I was feeling half the time. And it sure as hell isn't joy. And even if I had been feeling joy, I wouldn't have known what to call it. It would have just felt this foreign thing just invaded my mind. And I have learned more to allow my emotions rather than suppress them and resist them, one of which is joy. And because the more I push it down, the less alive I feel. And again, I don't believe that we're meant to be numb the way we used to be numb. And that connection, that allowing people to connect with me and I'm able to connect with them, and that joyful exchange is possible today, but it wasn't for so long because I didn't know how to do it. And when I did start learning, it was not a burning bush for me. It was an educational sort of evolution. And it was like, oh, yeah, that is my birthright. I deserve to be happy and joyful, and I deserve to be here. And so, again, that self-talk and that allowing for emotion and allowing for that connection that ensues because of it is what makes this life, especially around this season, so special. Everything is amplified around the holidays, everything. And I love the holidays. And as I said, I miss my family, but I have a chosen family now. And that's wonderful. I'm so grateful for that. And I'm allowing myself to grieve. It's not as raw as it used to be, but I still feel it and I allow it because it'll just pass through me. It shows me how much I loved and valued that person in my life. And I realize the depth of grief really equates to how much you loved that person. And yeah, I think when we try and suppress that and not allow it, we're also not allowing joy to embrace us.
And so we wish for you all to find ways, little and big,
Hmm.
to bring more joy into your life. And this sober journey, this recovery journey, does not have room for being unhappy and restless and discontent, right? This journey is for us to really, truly be happy and joyous and free.
Yes, exactly. So look for it because it's always there. And thank you for joining us on this episode of Recovery, the Whole Enchilada. And if you connected with today's episode, please share it and like it and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Your feedback helps Heather and I to shape future conversations. And we've also been talking about bringing on some guests. So that'll be fun, more in 2026 to be revealed. We love you, and remember that your recovery story, with all its flavors and textures and complexities, matters deeply. Until next time, stay strong and keep growing.